All right, I'm going to have Gemini rising and sun. So this Capricorn full moon is happening on June 21st in your eighth house, right after the start of the summer solstice. So first of all, full moons in the eighth house, especially in Capricorn, could be a little bit uncomfortable. That's not always going to be the case, but from my personal experience, whenever I have my eighth house packed with stuff, illuminated, it's like an emotional purge. And quite a lot of shadowy things can come to the surface. And I definitely think that's possible with this moon in reverse, which has been kind of a theme, even though we're only on the third sign. But it's been this theme already with this moon overall, that there are maybe emotions coming to the surface. And this moon card in reverse has a lot to deal with, also a lot of kind of unseen or unknown factors, mysterious factors at play, the divine hand in influencing our path. And that for you is specifically coming through the area of career, because this full moon in the 8th is squaring Neptune in your 10th house. So there's something here around maybe not having like full clarity around certain elements of your career. Not realizing how much like fate and guidance and divine energy is coming and influencing your career path and where you're supposed to go next. And when we have trouble kind of trusting in so many unknown factors in our future, we can tend to shrivel up. We can have fear. We can feel like we want to control things, that we want to kind of hold back as well from life. And so this would be kind of the negative consequences of an eighth house placement like this. That's not really what I'm getting from you, because we do have Jupiter that just moved into your sign, and I feel like you are growing massively. But I think also oftentimes, let's talk about this first. I want to show you some cards first. With the Two of Pentacles and Nine of Cups, I feel like this is a perfect illustration of Jupiter and Gemini. Having so many options of good things, having your life feel really full, having, a full schedule with clients that you want to see, having full schedule with friends that you want to see, making good money, or just having like a full life and a lot going on, but things that you are excited about, right? Things that you are enjoying. And that I think is partially like the hand of God again influencing you, of aligning things up in this fated way, so that when Jupiter enters Gemini, or when it already did, it starts to kick off those dominoes, those blessings of all the things that you kind of inherently started to line up beforehand through the power of the universe. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you don't have feelings, and that you don't have hard times, or that you don't have fears, or that you don't have uncertainties, or that you don't get overwhelmed, or feel insecure. Like, those things can still happen even when blessings are pouring in, things are starting to align, things are starting to grow. And so there's going to be some element here of having this moon in the 8th house where, I don't know, I just think that we're going to have like big feelings, basically. I did pull this poet card, and I thought this was really fascinating. I kind of want to read it. I already forgot what it said. It was saying something about, I'll just read it. The poet's work is to feel immensely and not be afraid. And that is what I feel like this full moon is trying to bring up. I also think it's quite clairvoyant as well, which is very typical for the sun being in Cancer, an 8th house activation, this full moon squaring Neptune. Quite a lot of messages around trusting intuition and guidance and clairvoyance is very strong right now. But this other element of the poet creates art out of big emotions. It makes sense, or maybe not makes sense, but it creates beauty and maybe meaning through that art around emotions, around things that have happened in our lives. And so there's something here with that, with this full moon being in the 8th house, where I think it's really encouraging you to have kind of like a cathartic release of emotions. And I think that that will, and maybe do something beautiful with it. It doesn't have to be that you do something beautiful with it necessarily, but just like that you're finding maybe some kind of, yeah, some kind of reasoning, especially with Jupiter in your sign, some kind of reasoning for understanding things that have happened in your life. And if there are challenges that you're going through, to make greater purpose of those. And ultimately, I think to draw beauty out in your current circumstances, no matter what they look like. And I think that for many of you, they are likely looking pretty good, but also maybe a bit mixed. It will kind of depend on your chart, of course. But this is a big time for you guys, because Mercury, your planetary ruler, is squaring the notes. And whenever we have that, we have this kind of fated decision point where we can go towards the old or towards the new. And this might very much be in regards to your desire to kind of like fit in, because the North Node is in your 11th, or yeah, your 11th house. And the 11th house has a lot to do with like belonging, our community, our friends. There could be something here with that where we are meant to be finding that. We are meant to be finding your place, I guess, out in the world, in a sense. Especially with Jupiter in your sign. Jupiter is a social expander. It's when you fill up your social calendar. And so there's something here where you could have some kind of choice between an old and new way of doing things. Like, do I want to still hang out with old people or hang out with new people? Do I want to still go about my relationships the same way, or do I want to go about them a new way? Do I want to try to approach my own authentic expression this way or that way? And I feel like it's always best to have a combination of 5th and 11th house. The 5th house is the authenticity, the individuality, the focus on the self and on your own kind of differences and what makes you unique and special. Whereas the 11th house is where we go and we meet other like-minded people. We find our sense of community and belonging, and where it's less about individuation in some senses. So I feel like this is about a little bit of a combination of both, but ultimately there could be some kind of critical questions that you might be asking yourself around where you belong. And this could be in many different ways. Like, do I like finding your place within a career and finding the right people to support you within that career in your community, for example, could be an example. It could be more basic where it's just your friends and, trying to understand like, well, who should I be spending my time with? Who should I be focusing my kind of relational energy on? Things like that. But another element of this is also focusing on delaying gratification for larger aims, bigger impacts, bigger goals, things that will support our future self. And so for some of you who don't relate to the whole community element, you might find that you're working on these big dreams right now and you're having to delay instant gratification. You're going to maybe have to work harder and face, maybe with this poet card and full moon in the 8th house, maybe have to face some of these kind of emotions that come up when we're putting a lot of sacrifice into something for that long-term goal. And with the Sun, Mercury, and Venus in your 2nd, this is definitely a time to be focusing on building up your wealth and making sure that you are taking care of your things and your finances in the way that they deserve. Sorry, I feel like there's just like a lot of little messages in this. Not sorry. I think we shouldn't apologize so much. So I'm working on that. But yes, maybe it's because it's Gemini's reading. I'm a little bit more scattered. But yeah, I definitely think that there's this kind of shift in terms of thinking about money, thinking about what we value that really needs to happen as well. And ultimately focusing on that long-term goal, as well as the sense of community that feels right for us to support us in getting there. One of the other messages coming through is this kind of distinction between your head and your heart with this Queen of Swords and King of Cups. And because the King is higher up in the tarot, I kind of feel like at certain times of your life, maybe you have let your heart lead. Or maybe right now you feel like your heart is leading. Or it could be the opposite because Jupiter is in your sign. I don't know. That might not be the case for everyone, but there's this juxtaposition here where it's like, I'm going to lead with my intuition or I'm going to lead with logic. And for some of you guys, that might be that you've led a lot with your heart and your intuition. And it's like, okay, let's balance this out with logic, with practicality. But then also with the moon in reverse, some of you guys could be the opposite, where, especially as a Gemini, which is an air sign, very logical, there could be times when you are overly reliant on logic and not trusting enough of these outside senses and how they're guiding you. So really, this is just to say that it's a very important time to find a balance between these two sides of the self. Another way that this could come out is that there could be some coldness versus some softness within the self. And you might be oscillating between these kind of two variants. If that's the case for you. This could look like many different things, but being harsh with your words with the Queen of Swords to being like very, very supportive and emotionally mature and helping people and compassionate. And again, kind of these two parallels or sides of a coin. So there's something here where I feel like you guys are meant to be bringing in some balance in between the masculine and feminine in the way that you move around your life and the way like towards your career goals, but also in your social sphere as well. There might be some need to kind of look at, have I been balanced in my approach? Am I balancing my head and my heart in relationships and goal pursuits? Let me pull one more card. Because, yeah, I feel like with this square to Neptune the 10th again, I just feel like there's something here within your career that it's going to take some more time to unfold. And you really have to have faith. But then you can't just like not apply logic as well, because this is a Capricorn full moon. So I feel like this message really applies there. Okay, we got the nose and the bone. So let me just read what these say. Stable, reliable, unyielding, inflexible, dependable with a strong work ethic and disciplined, regimented approach to all aspects of life. Although at times you can give the impression of being inflexible and uncompromising, what does not bend runs the risk of breaking. You may benefit from being softer and going easier at times and relinquishing control. Yeah, there's something there with that, where this might even be related to Sun quincunx Pluto, Sun being in the second, Pluto being in the ninth. There might be something here around being like stuck on like a schedule, on a way of like treating yourself, or how you're valuing yourself, how you're going about your perception of things or talking to yourself, where it's like, if I do it like this, then I'm good. And then, I give myself love. But if I don't do it like this, then it's broken and I'm doing it all wrong. And it's like, well, we need to have some balance here. We need to have, again, with this, we need to have both logic and compassion, where I think, again, it's recommending more to lean into the King of Cups with that moon in reverse. It's like we need to have a little bit more compassion. I think many of us are probably kind of falling to the Queen of Swords now that I think about it, where we're being overly cold or rigid with ourselves, with our approach to our career, with our approach to our life in some way, our friendships in some way. And it's like, what if we approach the situation with more fluidity and compassion, but not so much fluidity and compassion that we don't actually get anywhere, that we don't actually take into account kind of the schedules or the realities of life. So it's like we really trying to find that balance, I feel like, is what's being called for right now. The other one is the nose. Comprehension, filtering, and understanding. Curious and analytical on an information and fact-gathering mission, you're currently in the process of filtering and discerning what information is useful to you in the long run. Acknowledge the importance of gathering information before making a decision. Well, I mean, I just think that this is common with Jupiter in your sign. You guys are learning a lot about yourselves, and I think you are in the process of self-discovery. When Jupiter is in your sign, you're learning a lot about your life, and wherever you have the sign of Gemini, which is likely your first house, or maybe somewhere else if you have your sun there. So it's like you're learning about yourself, you're learning about your career, and what if you just approached it with that flexible, curious nature instead of having like a strong rigid approach that is based out of fear or desire to control things that can be negatively influencing your outcome. So that is the message for you, Gemini, to really find that beautiful balance, to feel your feelings, make something artistic or like light out of those feelings when there are things that kind of go awry, because that tends to happen with full moons in the 8th house. But in general, I think you have a lot of blessings in your life, and it really is about just making the most of them and being generous and compassionate with yourself along the way. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Gemini. If this resonates, I'd love to hear in your comments down below. If you want a reading from me, you can check me out at Cosmic Clarity Astrology, which I will link in the description box down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye.